Welcome to the Fulfilled Life Summit, where we explore one powerful question. What does it truly mean to live a fulfilled life? And how can we create more fulfilled lives, lives we truly love? This summit brings together a curated group of global experts to help you release stress, self doubt, and the invisible barriers that keep you stuck, and help you to step into a life of happiness, wealth, and freedom. A life you truly love, a fulfilled life. I'm your host, Nicole Maske, joining you from Namibia. And I'm excited to be joined by Reverend Lisa Barnett today. Lisa is the visionary founder of the Akashic Knowing School, where she guides individuals globally to tap into their personal soul wisdom using her 5-step Akashic prayer system for easy access into their Akashic records. Lisa is also the acclaimed author of 4 books on the Akashic Records. With over 30 years of experience, she offers Akashic reading and quantum healing sessions to help heal trauma, release karma, and clear old soul contracts and vows. Lisa excels in empowering clients to achieve greater happiness, abundance, and love in their lives by aligning with their soul plan. Welcome.
Thank you, Nicole. I am thrilled to be here with you and get to share some of this a little bit more unusual wisdom.
Sounds fantastic, and exactly what we're looking for: more happiness, abundance, and love. So I think that's why people have joined us. So I will start with a question that I'm asking everyone, and that is, what does a fulfilled life mean to you, and how might this have changed over time?
Mm. So, a fulfilled life to me really is the embodiment of our soul, our purposes, our path, the love that we've actually planned into our life. So, being able to share love and joy, fun and laughter is truly what fulfillment means to me. And I think it's changed some since I was quite a bit younger, when fulfillment was more about a good career. So, so over time, the wisdom of the soul, the guidance from my soul and from my Akashic records has really changed that trajectory for more joy and more love.
Oh, wonderful. And I think the question that everyone is going to ask now is, what are Akashic records?
Yeah, so what the Akashic Records are is the recording of your soul's journey throughout really all time-space continuum. So if you imagined that at some moment in time, your soul individuated from source, your soul went on a journey. And honestly, you didn't just come to Earth. You have been on a huge and very infinite journey. And everything you've ever been or done is energetically recorded in this field that we call the Akashic field or the Akashic records. So you have your very own Akashic library filled with millions and millions of books about lifetimes you've spent in the multiverse, as well as having a team of beautiful beings that are pure light, pure source energy. They're just in support to you to help you understand the plan your soul wrote before coming to this life now, as well as many of the gifts and talents you have stored in that library and are useful to understand.
Amazing, amazing. And so when you mentioned this plan that we've got, so what is our soul plan, and why do we write one? How is it written?
Yes. So again, because if you imagine that you've had quite a few hundreds of lives on Earth alone, right? You have been honing gifts and talents. You've had relationships with thousands of other souls, some of them part of your original soul family. You've created some karmic patterns, which is often, they're the challenges that often show up in our life. And as an infinite soul, we come here to learn and grow. We want to work through challenges that we haven't quite completed in other lifetimes. We want to share the wisdom that we gleaned from what we learn with other people. So your soul plan is complicated because it has often 50 or 100 soul contracts with other people. Many of them are support contracts to support each other in this life. Many of them have to do with learning and growing. And sometimes it's your soul's growth, and sometimes you want to help someone else to learn and grow and understand some kind of karmic pattern or some type of challenge they haven't figured out yet. So sometimes we show up being the bad guy. Sometimes we're the one having the challenge. And it's always about the soul growth, the learning, the compassion, forgiveness, right? And teaching that we may be able to share in this life. So your plan is complicated and everyone's is really different.
Very interesting. And as part of that plan, I mean, do you have sort of a purpose? And does it really tell us why we've come? And I mean, what have you seen through your work? Like, what have you seen happen or people discover?
Yes. So it's a great question. And again, because you have a whole library, you are really more complicated than most of us would imagine. So we do not have one purpose because as the beings of light that are in service to us, keeping our records, I refer to them as the record keepers, just simple. They don't have names because they've never been human. But our record keepers say that most of us have 3, 4, 5, 6 purposes that, of course, our lives are really pretty long and we would get very bored if you only had one thing to do, right? If your whole purpose was to have a child, well, what happens when that child grows up or leaves home? Or if something else happens, right? You have numerous purposes. And again, because we live hundreds of lives, there are lifetimes where maybe you were a prolific author. Maybe you wrote poetry, or maybe you wrote, stories and mysteries or something magical or mystical. And you said when you were coming back, I want to be an author again. So you put that as one of your gifts and talents, one of your purposes. So the interesting way the record keepers often talk about these purposes would be if you imagine like a pearl necklace, big pearls, big lumpy chunky pearls. But if you had brought 4 or 5 or 6 pearl necklaces with you, maybe they're all each different colors, they go with different, outfits. Or maybe if you're a gentleman, you would think of it more as a tie. And so the pearl necklace would be, maybe I had 5 or 8 or 10 lifetimes where I honed that talent of being an author. And that would give me really a beautiful kind of author pearl necklace. And so I might say, well, I'm going to take that necklace with me because I want to write books. And so, that's an example. But of course, we have done so many things and we really want to utilize a lot of our gifts and share them with humanity.
That makes sense. And I mean, looking at my own life, I can really feel that because I always felt that like one purpose doesn't really fit. Like you do have more than one thing that you are called to do very often. And I hear that from people as well, where they started out in one career and then they decide later they want to do something completely different. So that really makes a lot of sense. So
Right. And I think it's helpful when we realize that sometimes our purposes are subtle. Right. Often I would say, we often hold kind of an archetype of sorts, such as maybe you've come in general in that archetype to be of service to humanity. Or maybe you start out and you're a nurse or a doctor, or maybe you have a bakery or you work in a restaurant, or you stay home with your family and you take care of the family. Those are all service sort of oriented jobs. So often we might start out that way in life. And then later in life, our service shifts from really service to humanity in general to service to the greater good. And so we might go on, like myself, become a minister later in life, or find other ways to help really hold a more kind of priestly or godly sort of, priestess sort of work. Maybe we become a healer, or we write about healing, and maybe we want to bridge science and spirituality. So these can be kind of part of a similar archetype, but the purposes can show up very different, again, with different people.
Okay, interesting. So I mean, beyond the purpose and the gifts that we bring into our present life, like how else can these past lives actually affect what's happening in our present life?
Well, the really big one is what, we call karma. And so in many lives, we have struggled, and maybe we were not able to make enough money to survive or survive very well. And so these become kind of an energetic pattern, or they can even be part of, like, if we think of a program as something we're kind of stuck in, that program's always running. And so a lot of people, a lot of clients will come to me and they'll say, I can never make enough money, or I always feel like the minute I get a little bit of extra money in my bank account, the car breaks, the pet has to go to the vet, something happens, my roof leaks, right? It could be so many different things, but it's like, but I don't understand why. Why does that always happen? It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing, so that we end up kind of living at just one lower level of abundance or lack of abundance. And so these sorts of patterns, we often will be part of our plan. We might say, I want to go back and work on breaking through my money issues, or I want to help work on money or abundance. And of course, abundance could be about health or love, energy, vitality, happiness. So abundance does not have to be about money, of course.
Yeah.
But for a lot of us humans, it is, right? Because it's such a big deal in our world. We cannot live without it at this point in history. And so we may come back many times. And so when you would look at that, if I was doing a reading for a client, I, of course, have a whole school where I teach people to do this empowering work for themselves. So a student might go in and see 3, 4, 5, 8 lives where they died of starvation, or where they ended up in debtor's prison, and they ended up, just survival levels of life. And so we would literally say, as a big and powerful soul, we really are not that. So we say, this time I'm going to go back and I'm going to figure it out. I am going to make, different choices. I am going to do different things. And so we write this whole soul plan that might include ways to make new choices. So you may choose a family that has some big money issues and has a lot of lack beliefs around money's bad and will always be broke because, that's the way the family line has always been. Our ancestral lineage has always lived in poverty. And so you might specifically pick a family like that because you want to realize and make a different choice, right? And so you may be the one in the family, the first one ever to go to college, because your soul knows, I'm going to break through this. This is part of my plan. And even though you might not think that, consciously, most of this is very subtle, unconscious sort of guidance, unless you can access your Akashic Records, then it's very conscious and simple. But we may just have a very strong drive to get something specific done. And that's often part of what you wrote into your soul plan. So there you are at college thinking, wow, kind of like I made it. And you have made a huge shift for your whole ancestral lineage. Now college is possible for your children and everyone else's, your siblings' children, people in the family. It changes the way we see the world.
Amazing. I mean, and so how does this understanding of how we see the world help us with stress and self-doubt and, these things that keep us stuck in patterns that cause us possibly to live a life that we don't love?
Yeah, so in a couple of different ways, it's phenomenally useful. So because the record keepers always say, when we have access into our own Akashic records, a few different things happen. The first thing that happens is you move into the energy field of source, of pure source, quantum field of source. And this field is truly pure love. And so when I teach my students my 5-step wisdom prayer system, they are energetically moving from one space of, I'm stuck in my lack, to being able to use this energetic key to move into a higher vibration or frequency. And we're moving into the energy of love. Now that actually will change the way you start to see the world. We're actually able to open more doors and see more possibilities when we move out of the low vibration of lack and loss and victimhood and fear and stress. Those are low vibrational emotions, and they literally hold us down. So as we either learn to do this for ourselves and literally start to change our energy field to a higher frequency, and again, if you imagine we're magnetic beings, that means that what you are is what you draw to you. So if you are love and peace, you draw more love and peace. If you are stress and fear and upset or anger, doubt, that's exactly what is coming to you. That is the magnetic way that our world works. And so all of a sudden we realize, wow, when I start to change my frequency, change my vibration by moving into the Akashic Records, more good things happen. Things flow. Things are easier. So the frequency piece is huge. But the other piece that's huge is going into the library of your soul and starting to learn about who you really are. All those lives where you did beautiful works. Maybe you were that author, that teacher. Maybe you worked in one of the great mystery schools that have been on our planet over the last 5,000 years or so. Maybe you were a doctor, healer, a wise woman, a shaman, maybe you see yourself in these other roles and ways, which, again, I find that when we can start to see ourselves differently, we actually are able to embrace and integrate that energy of who you've been in other lifetimes. Because every lifetime is always happening in the quantum field.
Mm.
So when I see and remember a lifetime where I was a teacher in an ancient mystery school, I all of a sudden am able to say, I've been that, I've done that, I can do that again, right? So it shifts the way I see myself. And some of these are tremendously uh, miraculous. Really, they can be very kind of magical and miraculous, because in the witnessing, we are shifting into that, again, frequency, and those doors in the universe are opening up, and we're able to start to step into those gifts that we had and we've honed. And so, again, we can reclaim many of these past life gifts. We can see who we've been in many, many lives that is beneficial for us now. And while we're doing this work, we are raising our frequency, holding more light, and drawing to us more opportunities, really beautiful possibilities.
Amazing, amazing. So the one thing that I think people often speak about from past lives, and you mentioned it earlier as well, is around karma and soul contracts. And I mean, can you tell us a little bit about this and how this works? Do they ever end soul contracts? I mean, how can you cancel the contracts in this realm?
Yeah, so the karmic pattern, I mean, a karmic pattern could be about lack, as I was kind of describing around money and abundance and lack.
Mm.
A soul contract can absolutely be about things that are very painful and extreme. Maybe you were born into a family that is abusive or addictive, right? So maybe you have an alcoholic parent or an abusive parent, and you would think, well, like, how unlucky am I? That's awful. That's been a traumatic and painful life. And um, when we can start to look at the fact that every soul, again, if you imagine you've lived 400 or 600 lives on earth, every soul does everything. So if you were born into an abusive family, you have been the abuser. And then on top of that, we have all sorts of facets of those sorts of karmic patterns. In one life, maybe you were physically abusive, maybe you were mentally abusive in another life, right? Maybe you were sexually abusive in a life. And so there's actually a very powerful collective or group contract on the earth right now that many thousands and thousands of people are holding, and that is actually about ending abuse on our planet. And so many beautiful souls have stepped into abusive families to end the pattern, saying, I will not pass that down to my children. Some people, again, we all make our own choices. We are unique. So one person may have a happy, loving, really beautiful family, and another person may say, I'll get married, but I'm not having any kids. And someone else may say, I'm not even going to get married. In my family, that was really traumatic. And so I'm going to live my life more solo, making different choices. And so they're all perfect for that soul, right? Again, we are not ever victims, even though it's painful, traumatic, really an awful life. Your big infinite soul said, I want to end that for that ancestral lineage. So I'm going to stop it. I'm going to step in there and stop it. And I truly believe that There are so many people on the planet that are doing that. And the awareness that had been hidden and suppressed for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years, is coming to the surface now. People are speaking up. They are speaking out. They are ending it. And so it's beautiful to see how this karmic pattern is getting ended through thousands or millions of beautiful souls stepping into that pattern and stepping up and speaking up and ending abuse. And so that's an extreme karmic pattern. Many of them have more to do with things like fear. So maybe you were in a spiritual school, maybe you were a druid, and in times the pagans were frowned upon. Maybe they were run out of town or killed. And so in that world, you would hide. And so you made vows to never be seen. Now, in this life, maybe you want to step out there and you want to be a teacher or a speaker or share some of your wisdom, but you can't figure out how come you can't get out there and get seen? How come you can't speak up? How come you can't get on a telesummit or a podcast or a stage, right? So some of these are karmic patterns, they're contracts we've written, they're vows that we've made in other lifetimes, like a vow to stay hidden. And so all of this information is stored in your Akashic Library. And when you have a reading with someone like myself or learn to access your own Akashic records, then we can clear these with ease because we're in the beautiful quantum field of source, which is always available to shift and change. And so even you mentioned like unwrite or undo a soul contract.
Cancel the contract. I come from the
cancel contract, right? Cancel contracts. So, so the interesting thing with contracts, soul contracts with other people, we often write quite a few of them. So you might have written 25 or 50 or even 100 contracts. Now, most of those are not for significant partnerships. But most of us, before we embody, we know that this is a very fluid world. People move about, right? We're not staying in one village all of our lives anymore. So you might write 6 or 12 soul contracts to have a significant partnership. Because we move around, things change. Maybe you meet that person, but they're already married. You know, we have all sorts of different things going on. So we are setting ourselves up for success, right? Not for failure, but for success. And so there are more contracts. We sometimes write a short contract to be married for a year or two. Sometimes that contract has to do with, again, karma, learning a lesson. And sometimes it has to do, with, again, completing a karmic pattern. And for someone else, it can really be about bringing that beautiful soul growth and realization out for yourself so that you can have something you can share the gifts, teach what you've learned. So some of our contracts are only for a year or two, and people might stay in a marriage that is long past its contract, right? That contract. So for me personally, I had a very short marriage of about less than 2 years. And it was about me learning that it's not my job to heal everyone, right? And these are a very important contract for a healer to know, right? Otherwise, I'd be trying to heal humanity, burning myself out, maybe getting really sick. It's a really common challenge for people who are spiritual and healers and such. And so it's really important that we can, sorry about that, it's really important that we learn some of these powerful lessons. And so I had a short marriage with someone who was not willing to work on themselves, was not willing to get help for their drinking. And that kind of epiphany that I can't save you, I can't fix you, it's not my job to change you, probably has saved my life, right? So that was a short contract. I got divorced. I realized, oh, thank you. That was a beautiful gift I received from that relationship. So when we can see and understand these things very often, it's less painful because we see that bigger picture. I could say, oh, thank you for that gift. I understand. That made me realize something that I was believing, that I should be able to heal everyone. It's just never true. So we write a lot of kind of karmic contracts around those sorts of patterns. And so being able to go into your records and see if your contract is complete. And then the other side of that is that, say, you've tried everything you can with the contract and the other person is not interested in doing, holding up their side of the bargain, doing their work, right? And then the contract actually does become null and void. And so the contract actually dissipates. And to me, what I see when we go into the records often is that we can just upgrade it and update it. And sometimes that will evaporate. We'll unwrite it. Sometimes we can upgrade an existing one because things have changed in our lives. And so we don't just write, a couple of lifelong contracts. We're just much more unique than that.
That's very interesting. And I think that perspective on it also allows people to see the things that happen in their lives in a bigger picture and maybe move towards forgiveness a lot more, which I think keeps a lot of people stuck.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, to me, just even, having one, a reading or working with someone in the Akashic Records, I find is so empowering, even if it's 1 hour, to ask many of these questions, to understand the bigger picture, to actually be able to see your life in that kind of long way, and even lives that, why would I pick that terrible thing? Why would I pick those awful parents? I mean, it's hard to imagine how many clients I've worked with who have come to me with these kinds of questions. Like, would I really? And the interesting answer is yes, you would, because you are a powerful and infinite soul. So when we go to that view, you're an infinite soul. We aren't worried about a 60 or 80 or 100-year life, really. We want to learn and grow and share the wisdom.
Exactly. Well, I know you wanted to take us through a little bit of an experience of accessing the records. So shall we do that now?
Absolutely. I would love to. So what I'm going to do is I have been given 8 galactic access keys that I teach my students. So 8 different kind of star seed lineages, so that if you took a workshop with me, you would also kind of be getting that information on what galactic lineage or starseed lineage you're from. Where did you start out? What worlds have you lived in those kind of bigger galactic sort of ways? So energetically, what I'll do is I use a more encompassing collective prayer to help bring everyone listening, watching into the Akashic Records with me. And then we'll be able to do a little bit of group healing together. So if you just want to sit back, and I just always say, close your eyes if you can. And let's just start with a nice deep breath. Just a slow, deep belly breath with your feet on the ground, just feeling your body in your chair. Releasing anything that's not serving you in this moment. And we'll just take a nice second, slow, deep breath into our beautiful sacred heart center. To me, that's kind of where your high heart, your spiritual heart is, kind of a combination of spiritual heart and fourth chakra heart. We breathe into our sacred heart center, inviting our beautiful sacred heart to open and expand a little bit further. And we ask the divine lords of unconditional love to help us center fully in this moment as we create this sacred space. Please wrap us in your love and protection and allow us to travel to the highest realms of the Akasha available to us today. Please help us relay our multidimensional hearts open to divine love and release all resistance. Lords of the Akashic Record, please guide us to the deepest truth we can access now. Support us in healing and releasing that which no longer serves on our true path. And just taking another slow, deep breath into your sacred heart. We invite the beautiful silvery blue column of light to encircle all of us as we come together in this Akashic field, in this present moment. And if you would like healing from your record keepers, you can just think, yes, please, record keepers, I would like some healing today. We always want to give consent because it's important that our record keepers or anyone, our angels, ascended masters, no one works on us or shifts any field in energy in our field without our permission and our consent. And so we ask our record keepers for the healing in this moment and just taking a moment to feel the beautiful sparkling energy. For many people, it feels like being wrapped in love. It is pure source love. And we'll ask our record keepers, since we were talking a bit about money and abundance, let's ask our collective record keepers to help us clear past life karmic patterns where we have had really challenging lives, maybe where we've died from starvation, where we've been thrown in a debtor's prison, where we have had to maybe do some sort of unsavory work in order to survive. I know often as women, we worked as prostitutes or worked in all sorts of just different, very, very challenging kinds of jobs to just get enough food to eat. And so we ask our record keepers to release the emotional pain and trauma from those lifetimes. All the way back, they're going back about 2,000 years, clearing and releasing any of that emotional pain, the trauma, the physical pain. Almost letting it go in this beautiful, empowering field of the quantum. Now we'll ask our record keepers to help us clear, release any contract that has us held in any of those patterns. So clearing, releasing. I often see the contracts and the vows burn like they were set on fire. So burn any vows of poverty we took. Often when we were priests or nuns or monks, we took vows of poverty. So we ask our record keepers to burn any vow of poverty we took when we were in a spiritual life throughout all time space continuum, and any other kind of vows or contracts to not receive our God-given gifts, to not receive money for our godly gifts. That was often part of the religious paradigm where we would say, I will not take money for the gifts that God gave me. But it was different if you were living in a monastery and you were fed and clothed and sheltered. So we want to burn any contracts we may have written, any vows we've made to not have abundance, to not have money, to not have this beautiful energy of the universe for the beautiful work that you do. And let's clear any ancestral pattern that's around poverty. Often we have that ancestrally. It might come back many countries. There was a lot of ancestral poverty, lack. There wasn't enough food. There were different reasons all of the crops would die, whether it was some kind of drought or plague or pestilence, any of those that came into our ancestral lineage, our family line, or we've believed that we don't deserve to have enough. And any of that through the ancestral lineage, we ask our record keepers to clear, release, and delete, going all the way back to the first two people in our family line. Beautiful. And we ask our record keepers to fill us up, fill the ancestral lineage with the highest golden soul energy and light that ancestral lineage can hold. And we also invite our record keepers to fill our physical body and our energy field with our highest Akashic energy, soul energy, highest frequency light, and pure love that we can hold right here and right now after clearing, releasing, and deleting some of these old karmic patterns, contracts, and vows. So just take a moment and a breath as you feel this, see this golden light filling your body and your energy field, your ancestral lineage, your life. And we thank our record keepers for the help, for the healing, for the guidance and the love. And we close and lock our group collective Akashic Records for now, and so it is. Also be. Beautiful.
Well, that was exactly that. Beautiful. Could feel that sort of beautiful presence, as you said, sort of that divine love. So amazing feeling. So, Lisa, you are sharing a beautiful free gift with everyone called Prayers of Abundance. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So, the Akashic Record Keepers actually gave me many, many, many prayers that are imbued with Akashic energy, which is, again, this is pure source love. And so they gave me about 10 healing prayers that are very related to healing many of our challenges around lack. So there's a prayer to release past life vows. There's a prayer for financial abundance, a prayer to assist in forward motion. And so this helps to clear the old patterns and beliefs that we hold consciously and unconsciously. So I often suggest to people that they pick one prayer and they do it. I like to read them 3 times in a row because it feels like the energy just goes deeper as you repeat it 3 times. You might do, one a day for 10 days, and then you might cycle back, see how you're feeling, and do one a day. Again, it takes a minute, just about, to do one prayer. Even 3 times doesn't take very long. And some people love to pick out their favorite prayers and do 3, 4, 5 every day for a week or 2. Or some people, say, I'm just going to do this for a month and see what I can break through, what sorts of abundance blocks I can break through right now. And it's such an important time in history because there's more light pouring down to earth. And yet we also have, many of us have more financial challenges than most of us are used to. So you might choose to do, 5 of them or all 10 of them for a week or 2, or even for the whole month. So however you choose to do it is just divinely guided and perfect.
That sounds wonderful. I'm sure you'll see great shifts. I'm still feeling in a beautiful state of energy after that. So one closing question for you is just, is there something specific you'd like people to remember from our conversation today?
Absolutely. So I would like everyone to remember that you are an ancient and infinite soul, that you are filled to overflowing with divine light and love. And truly, we come to earth to remember that, to peel the old stories, right? To let go of the old pains and traumas, to move into a state of forgiveness and compassion and love. And it is absolutely possible for each and every one of you to do that and create a beautiful, fulfilling life.
Amazing. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. I had a lovely time sharing with you.
Oh, I love that. That was beautiful. I'm definitely going to go back to that experience a few times as well. So, to our audience, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope this conversation has given you fresh insight into what it truly means to live a fulfilled life, and often some practical wisdom you can begin applying in your life right away. Our intention with the summit is not only to inspire you, but to support you in creating greater happiness, wealth, and freedom in your lives you truly love. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to having you with us for the next conversation.